Welcome, everyone, to Bound by Books, Love Stories Beyond the Pages, the podcast where the stories don't stop at the final chapter.
Where we take you beyond the pages into the emotion, the tension, and the spice that keeps you coming back for more.
And where nothing is off limits. If it made you feel something, question something, or unlock something, we're talking about it.
I'm DeeJay.
I'm Sydney.
And I'm Nadine.
From first reads to guilty pleasures.
From slow burns to full-on chaos.
And everything in between.
It's definitely time to go beyond the pages. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Bound by Books, Love Stories Beyond the Pages. As y'all noticed, there was a new intro since we've been getting a lot of new listeners to the podcast, and it seems like everybody is liking Sydney and Nadine both being here. We decided to add Nadine and make it a little bit more entertaining than before.
Last week, we talked about the books that awakened us and what we enjoyed about them.
I do want to do a new segment. I want to talk about what we're currently reading. So for me, I am almost done with One Killer Night, and it is very interesting.
So cute. I love
it. It is really cute. The plot twist in it was really crazy, actually, because I fell asleep.
Right?
Listening to it.
But you weren't expecting it, were you?
Well, no. The thing was, I was on the way home, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to the book. I'm driving home, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I go back like 3 chapters and figure out what I had missed. But the plot twist in it's crazy. So,
Nikki, do you want to know how I hooked him into getting into this book?
How?
I told him that the meet cute for them is that she's in a full-blown T-Rex outfit in a Walgreens or CVS buying fake blood for her sister's Halloween costume.
It is great.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? That's perfect. That's like right up your romance comedy alley.
The fact that she takes the fake blood and like starts stuffing it down the leg of the costume, that was funny.
Hilarious. It is it's really cute book. It gives you like a comedy Friday the 13th vibe, so like Jason vibes.
Absolutely.
Mixed with like, I don't even know, just another just a rom-com.
What about you, Nadine?
Unfortunately, I am still trying to finish Lights Out. I had a lot of stuff go on with my dog and him needing to get surgery, so I had to put reading on the back burner the past few weeks.
I'm finishing up Game On still.
Ooh.
I don't know, like I have 2 hours left, I think, of it. And then I have an arc read coming up for another dark rom-com, so we'll see.
Ooh, what's your arc? Or can we talk about it?
Unmask Me? I think is one of those. Hold on, I can pull it up really quickly. It hasn't been released yet. Yeah, it's Unmask Me by KG Willow, and I forgot that I signed up for it.
Oh, man.
But she's like an assassin that falls for her target, so.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
I know, and she wears a little mask. And then, of course, for the book club's monthly optional read, I'm going to do probably both books. Well, I definitely am doing Sinner's Retreat. What was the other one we chose?
What was that one that you were...
H. Carlton, I will also do.
There was one that you, for this month, that you had done.
I haven't done it yet, and I am going to. It is a military romance called The Weight of Sand, I believe. It's by Wolf Gunner. And from what I've heard one audio clip and was super interested, plus Joe Arden is the narration of it, so I will be doing that one also.
What was the audio clip?
She has PTSD and was talking to her about it or something like that, and I was like, emotions, I like it, let's do it.
Love a lot of emotion.
Also, I do want to say to everybody on the podcast, it is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Oh, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day. So let's get into our topic today. Why can't we talk about sex in America versus everywhere else? Why is it easier to watch violence than it is to talk about sex?
Why do people read it but won't admit it?
And why is America still so weird about it?
Some good questions. As far as mine goes, why is it easier to watch violence and talk about sex? I think it's because we're, what's the word I'm looking for?
Desensitized.
Yeah, desensitized. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We're desensitized to violence, but we're brought up, growing up, of not talking about sex, especially here in America.
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of people who had like sexual education classes that parents, you've heard the stories parents weren't excited about. So,
And even then, those classes were really weird. I remember the one I took, and it was like the fifth grade that we took that class, and they separated the boys and the girls, and it was really weird to me.
so I think
Yeah.
Florida's weird as it is when it comes to sex ed classes because they have well, at least the Keys did. When I was in QS, we had a Hope education class, which was like health education mixed with PE. So
Mm,
like half the semester you would do health education and the other half you would do like a PE.
that's exactly how it was for me too.
I think it's a down south thing because we didn't do that up here in the Panhandle.
Mm.
When I was down south, that's what we had, and I was really weird. It was weird to me to have it broken down that way, but I don't think my health education teacher took it like super literal because he was also a coach. But then Key West High School, we had an early child development, which means for like people who want to go into schooling for like children, like teachers to teach elementary and stuff like that, or like become nannies or whatever. It was basically one of those classes where you learned more about sex education in an early child development class than you did in the health education class.
The sugar babies in that class.
No, we had electronic, like robot children that were terrifying.
That is
Well,
so.
I guess it's because Pine Forest is so poor, but yeah, we they did the like flower or the sugar babies. The wife was telling us stories of how she had the electronic baby.
They're terrifying. They're obnoxious. And they like any mistake you made on a child, like if you shook it, it would tell you that you shook it. Which, granted, that's a good thing, but the things were so terrifying. So like we
Mm.
got them and they're like, if you break it, these are like hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, you're giving us robots. We're freshmen in high school.
Which honestly, looking back now,
Oh,
is so crazy that we even had robots, like the robot babies.
So the funny thing about the wife's is her I think it was like right after she got it, her stepmom went into labor with her sister. Yeah.
God. So double the trouble when she had it. Because we had to keep it. I don't know about her, but we had to keep ours for at least like 2 weeks, I think, or a week.
Yeah, I don't know how long she had to keep it, but she just had a weekend.
Yeah, we had ours for like a week. So, or it could have been a weekend. I'm not entirely positive. I kind of blacked that whole situation out of my life.
Understandably.
Oh, did it die from heat? Did
I
it
remember,
hear for that?
No. So why do people read it and won't admit it?
I think because it's behind closed doors. You're less likely to be judged if you don't openly admit that you're reading it.
Yeah.
it's much easier to keep it almost like a secret. Like, don't ask, don't tell. Like, if no one's asking you what you're reading, or if they don't even know what you're reading.
That's also why I think authors do a lot of discreet book covers.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're out in public and you're like a physical breeder, like books.
Which is good in a way because look at like, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
You need context for where you're trying to go, and I could probably
I
help
know,
you.
I'm so sorry. Like The Sinner, and
Oh yeah.
there's no way most people are gonna carry around that book where he's has a girl in a chain collar on her knees.
I mean, I would, but I'm weird. But I also wouldn't carry that around because those things are massive. Like those are thick.
Fair.
They are like weapons in your hand. Chaotix hardback came out for like the most recent Lord Spade Brothers for the Lord series came
Hmm.
out, and it looks like a freaking textbook you had in high school.
That's so funny. But I mean, we're not the average people, but for the average people, someone's not going to want to go into a coffee shop and like have this book and get side eyes from the older people.
I think that also has a lot into the a lot of people's appearances because like you
Mm,
look at me and my outward appearance gives off that I'm kind of weird. Like
yeah.
I have more tattoos, I have piercings, I have, stretched ears, I have bright red hair. I mean like I don't give off that I'm, you know, a quote
Yeah.
normal person, and like with you have a lot of tattoos.
I was just going to say living in Florida, especially like I don't want to say exactly where I live, but there's a lot of people that look at some people that look like us, lots of tattoos, lots of piercings, and it's just like, because we get a lot of that older generation down here, because all the older generations want to move to Florida.
The snowbird.
Yes. So you get so much judgmental people down here looking at you already.
That's the only downfall to being in a tourist state, though. Really,
Yeah.
that's like the biggest downfall to being in a tourist state is how many people come in. Like your normal Floridians don't care,
No.
but it's the ones that come in from vacationing or like you said, your snowbirds or like
Hmm.
your retirees. They're the ones that are like, "What is she wearing?" And you're like,
And they are
"What
the
is
most
that?"
judgmental ones.
Which is crazy, you would think that with what I've seen up here, that those people that go down there are like, oh my God, what is she? I have seen some of the weirdest shit.
I will say the one city, I've lived all over Florida. You both know this. The one city that I have lived in that is the least judgmental, and Nikki knows exactly where I'm going with this, is Key West. Key West, there is no judgment. Everybody who's there is kind of expects a shit show when you see it.
Hmm.
They're just not surprised, which is probably why I'm so desensitized to a lot of stuff. I mean, there is like a week-long Halloween party that
Yeah.
you walk around and you can see some old guys schlong hanging out.
They don't call it Key Weird for nothing because Fantasy Festival, which is what Sydney's talking about, is a free for all. There are
Yeah,
no rules. You'll walk down one alley and you'll see stuff that you can't explain.
So
And
I
then
have
you'll go somewhere else and everyone's half naked, walking around,
I
just
remember
dressed up to the nines.
when I was 17 and went to Fantasy Fest. This was probably the second year that I went. We were walking around and it was the night before Halloween or before the Halloween parade. So the night before is basically the costume parade where everybody just walks around the middle of Duval Street before the actual,
Hmm.
like the next night's the floats. We were walking and you just see half naked females. You see fully naked dudes half the time that are just body painted. You see fully naked females that are just body painted. And then you have random weird old men who are walking around with their dicks in boxes that are like, look inside or something like that. And I'm like, what are we doing?
No, no, it's definitely, it's, if you haven't been to Fantasy Fest, you have to go at least once in your life.
It is a lot of fun, I will say that. Do it.
so I haven't got to experience yet, but it sounds a little bit like the Pride up here in DC. I have heard some horror stories of like dudes walking around with their junk hanging out, women walking around completely naked, and there's kids walking around too. And I know not to take my kids down up there, you know.
So I think there's like a rite of passage when you're a kid in Key West. Granted, they're not like the parents aren't letting anybody below like the age of 16 go, right?
Hmm.
Because it's one of those things. There are, like 16 and older that are usually attending, and I knew a lot of them that were illegally drinking, but it's you don't have you're literally on a 2 by 4 island, like a 2 mile by 4 mile island with nothing to do, and it's a week long stanza. But in the same sentence of it being called Key Weird, their motto is one human family.
Hmm.
Like it's a lot of like they don't care who you are kind of thing. They just believe everybody's human for a reason. It's a very big gay pride place, especially during June.
Hmm.
Like they do that a lot. If you've never been, it's worth going. I just hated being stuck on a 2 by 4 island for
Yeah.
I guess this could take us into our next, area of this, but the question is sex actually taboo in America?
areas. Absolutely.
For sure. There's some areas that are definitely more accepting.
So you say in certain areas. So, I mean, for me,
I would say your area is less accepting than certain parts of Florida.
yeah, I could see that.
I would also say
But if you go towards DC, Maryland, they're more accepting of things, and I think it's mostly because of the culture that's there. You got old redneck farmers out here in West Virginia where I'm at, and your big college kids, people who are graduating, going to work for the federal government and things like that, who are growing up in this new cultural society, moving to these big cities and areas. And I think that's why there is, like you said, some places are accepting, some places aren't.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I would think like bigger tourist cities are more accepting of that type of thing.
Yeah, because if they're not, then who's going to come visit it?
Yeah.
Well, and Key West kind of built themselves on Fantasy Fest. Like besides it being an island and being at the very bottom of Florida and all that stuff and the beautiful waters, beautiful beaches. Besides all of that, like the one thing that a lot of people know about when you talk about Key West is Fantasy Fest. Like it's a thing that like
Yeah.
people know about, and it makes its way. You have people that travel from states just to come to it every year. The moment that Key West, like their Fantasy Fest happens, you have to book usually right after or before
Mm-hmm.
to get hotels. It's so well, like if you wanted to go, you probably could book now, or you would have to wait and your booking will be out for next year.
Yeah.
So were you raised to talk about sex?
50-50. I mean, it wasn't so like I grew up watching Law and Order SVU, not by like my mom's greatest standard. She hated that for me, like, but I was into it. Like I watched it. So it was a lot of self-taught. I wasn't worried to talk about it if it needed to be talked about.
For me, we really didn't. It was one of those things that you just didn't talk about. Like I knew about it. I knew about it from family members, friends, things like that. But to actually like openly talk about it with my parents, no.
I think there's a stigma behind talking about sex with parentals than it is to talking about with like acquaintances and
Yeah.
friends. And I honestly, if parents didn't treat it as it's such a taboo subject, I think
Mm-hmm.
it could be a better talked about subject. But you do have parents who are like full on against schools teaching sex ed. When in Florida or in the United States in general, you have technically free education from, kindergarten to high school. Once they're in high
Mm-hmm.
school, even in middle school, I think sex education and health education should be talked about. Like that's when kids are starting to understand what's going on. Your friends are, there's 14-year-olds that are going out and having sex, telling their friends about it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think I learned more about sex from friends in middle and high school than I did
I did
in
too.
sex ed.
I did too. And I did with I learned more just online in general. I was a Tumblr kid,
Same.
like I'm the age of Tumblr and MySpace. So like,
Man, y'all are really making my age.
you're welcome. But like, so we had more access. Like there was a time when Tumblr didn't even desensitize or flag anything that was porn related. So you just have like porn videos and GIFs just rolling around on fucking
Yeah.
Tumblr.
I had AOL chat rooms.
I did too. So did I. Okay.
Those got weird.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely did, especially, for
Which
kids.
honestly, that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but
Yeah.
the amount of stuff that we were exposed to on the internet before it became regulated is insane.
And I
But
grew up
it's nothing
watching.
compared to what these kids can get a hold of now.
Yeah, but you think about Roblox and how much there's like this thing going on with it and how much stuff happens on there.
And
But
we
we
were
were
just
talking to God knows who on AIM chat.
Like,
Right?
we were talking to Big Daddy 8949 at
Yeah,
3 o'clock in the morning, become best friends with some random person in California.
yeah. And God knows who those people were, how old they were.
Like, but that's what I'm getting at is like, so I grew up on like How to Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen. I grew up on watching like Law and Order SVU. Like I grew up watching this stuff, plus family being in law enforcement careers and stuff like that. So I think I got desensitized very easily to sex. Like it wasn't like a open topic that my family would willingly want to talk about, but like if it came up, they weren't like weirded out by it.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like nothing was like strictly taught, but at the same time nothing was off limits.
Like if you had a question, you could ask.
Yeah, but nothing was blocked out on TV. We all watched. Honestly, I think my parents watched more adult shows when I was a child than any child show.
I think my only two stipulations not to watch when I was a kid, which mind you, I told you what I did grow up watching. My only two stipulations not to watch were Family Guy and South Park.
That's so funny.
Those are the ones that were, I don't want you watching this. And I'm like, cool, I'll just watch something else,
Yeah.
I'll watch Law and Order for fucking 5 hours. That's fine. We loved The Simpsons when I was.
Love The Simpsons. I remember we'd sit down for dinner on the couches and it would be like Futurama, The Simpsons, King of the Hill. And that's what I grew up watching.
So the Simpsons weren't okay. But Beavis and Butthead were fine.
I love Beavis and Butthead. Daria, love that one too.
Daria was good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of, I grew up watching Degrassi,
I did too.
which is crazy to think that that was on TV. And like people are so upset about Euphoria and those being teenagers. I can't imagine how people would feel about Degrassi today.
Yeah, I learned that Paige got raped in a TV show and how she dealt with it. Like it was
Yeah,
a whole fucking thing. But I also take that in that it was a Canadian show. Like
true.
it was a Canadian based show. So I don't think stuff was off limits like that for them.
Mm-hmm.
They touched on topics that I feel like teens should know about and how to confront, like Manny
Mm-hmm.
situation, fucking Drake getting shot and put in a wheelchair before he was Drake. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a school shooting episode. Like, are you kidding me?
It was so beyond its time.
So it's more people we learned from the internet, books, and TV
Yeah.
did from our parents.
I think a lot of that has to do with like I think it's still carrying out some of our old beliefs, even though it's like over not even over 100 years ago. This was still going on in like the seven. Sex was looked at as taboo because a lot of religious values still played such a huge role in America.
And I think they still do, because you still
Yeah.
hear the whole don't have sex before marriage. It's a sin. Which, if that's your religion, that's fine. Keep going with that route. But for people who aren't into like Western religions like that, or even different religions, I don't think that that should be pushed onto a whole societal generation.
No.
And even if it is a takeaway in that religion, I still feel like it should be talked about in education, because teachers are there to teach your children.
And it's like if you're not going to teach your kids, let the health sciences teach your kids.
So did y'all get the birds and the bees talk at all? Or
From my parents? No.
My mom came in my room and she's like, "So you did sex ed, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you have any questions?" I was like, "No, not really." And that was the extent of the conversation.
I
so
think
I
that's what my
know that
mom did too. My mom, I think, was like, "So do you want to talk about it?" And I was like, "Not really. I think I got it covered." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty positive. I kind of know how it works."
so for me it was more of we didn't talk about it. No, like mom or dad didn't sit down and go, "Hey, make sure you wrap your junk and all that nice happy stuff." No, it was like, figure it out, bro. And pray you did. Yeah, like I'm so thankful that I didn't get put into a position of having kids before I was even ready to have them, because
Which happens a
I don't know.
lot
Yeah, it does. And
because
that goes into my next thing is I feel like most people, especially now, in this society, learn in the most horrible way possible. And
hmm
it's that figure it out, or you see dad knocking up 5, 6, 7 women, having 5, 6, 7 different baby mamas. They go and do the same thing.
Well, I don't think that, like, yes, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think that they're trying to mimic. I just don't think that they're raised enough to know the situations that can happen.
yeah,
Like, granted, if you do it the first time, I would hope you understand that it
yeah,
could happen again. But like, I need my cats to stop running around like crazy things, first of all. But I think it comes, like I said, it does come down to, so I did a lot of sociology and psychology in class versus like cultural versus behavioral, which is growing up and doing all that stuff. And I do think a lot of it is behavior learned. I 100% agree with you on that. I think it's monkey see, monkey do, and they're not being taught the correct way to handle the situation when it comes down to it. Like, I get it, heat of the moment type of situation, but if you're more prepared in the beginning,
yeah,
and you know stuff, then you're able to make a decision. Like, kids aren't dumb. Teenagers aren't dumb. Like, yes, some of them are dumb, but they're not like dumb dumb. You know what I mean? Like, they're
yeah.
smart enough and they're street smart enough nowadays that they understand consequences and reactions. They just don't usually care about them. That's what the problem is.
I think it has a lot to do with their peers too, because I know in high school it was like the boys especially, it's like, oh, so and so slept with this person, or it's like, oh, you haven't slept with anyone, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think virginity is a weird topic too.
Yeah, because and it's weird in America because it's like as a teenager you're like, oh my gosh, I have to lose my virginity. And some people might not feel that way, but it's like all my friends have lost it. But then it's like on the other hand, you did lose it. In America, it's like, oh, well, she's a whore. She lost her virginity.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what's really funny is I don't even care about, like, I'll tell anybody, it doesn't bother me. I lost my virginity when I was like 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
I was right. I was about the same age too.
Like,
Same. I think I was 17 or 18.
well, I graduated when I was 17 because of how my birthday falls, so I think it was like when I was 18 or 19. It was one of the two. But it's like I didn't go out of my way to try to do it. I was focused on school. All my friends can go get laid. I didn't really give a shit. If it happened, it happened. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, it has to happen because everybody else is doing it. But I think there's a lot of peer pressure and a lot of kids, like you said, now this day and age, that they want to one ups the next person, if that's an easy way to
Yeah.
say it. Versus me, I'm over here like, okay, I was like I was a full adult
Mm.
when I made the conscious decision to lose my virginity. Like,
So going back to what Nadine was saying, you say, "Oh yeah, I've lost my virginity," or even if your body counts 2 or 3, as a female, you're considered a whore.
yeah, which is weird because.
And as a man, you're considered a freaking legend.
But what's crazy, sorry, Nadine.
You're
But
fine.
what's crazy is that DeeJay, if you were in the same general area of age whenever we did it, you would get looked at, like in our generation, you would get looked at like, what are you doing wrong?
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest things that stuck with me when I think it was after high school, but I remember I had a large group of friends and there was a lot of boys in that group of friends. And I remember one of them saying, a master key that can unlock a lot of locks is awesome. However, if you have a lock that you can use any key on, no one wants to use that lock.
That's a weird analogy to give.
It is a weird analogy.
But it like that, I remember being like 18 or 19 and being like, holy shit.
Were you high?
It's just that I it stuck with me ever since. I was like, damn.
It's a
And
good
that's how
analogy.
teenage boys look at it.
There, being high as a kite, and somebody say that analogy to her, she's like,
Damn.
"What?"
But that's just how like it was true in a sense. It's like,
It's crazy that men think of it like
yeah.
I'll say boys because most of them are boys at that age, but it is crazy that that's what their peer group thinks about it.
Yeah.
Which is also why I think men are more easy, like most men are easier to talk about sex than females are.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of leads into our next section of the double standard. Why
Yeah.
is it okay for a guy, but it's not okay for a girl? Why is
Society
it okay for guys to talk about it, but not girls?
society has put a lot of rules on women that
Mm-hmm.
they should only be faithful to like one person, which yes, but they should only have sex when they're married. That's going to be the person that they're married to. That's their only form of body. I think there's been a lot of regulations, I will say, put on women.
But I could see that back in the 60s, 70s, 90s, maybe even the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But we're 2026.
Yeah, but we are in a generation where I hate to say it, there are incels. Like, there are men who genuinely believe that because women do not find them attractive, that they have every right to do whatever they want or get whatever they want from a woman. And it is taught through social media. There are people that are on TikTok and Instagram that are like the red pill influencers that piss me off so much because there's these little fake alpha men that are out there basically saying women don't, if they have a high body count, don't even get with them. Like, what? What are we talking about?
I think it's still a lot of like people tie sex to being like pure, and a lot of people hold that to a standard, a wrong standard. But
So why is confidence seen as too much depending on who it comes from? I think every woman is beautiful in their own way. But let's break away from that and let's be a little mean for a minute. You got some chick who's gorgeous and is, confident about talking about stuff like this, and everybody's okay with that. That's the cool chick. That's okay for her. But you got someone
who society doesn't see as
some big girl
okay.
with 3 C's.
So me in the corner, the thick girl that's over here always talking about sex and BDSM, and it's weird.
But how many people have? All right, let's use you, Sid.
That's
How
fine.
many people have
Well,
looked at
well,
you
well.
and looked at your confidence and been like, "You're just a nasty whore. Or you're just oversharing."
Oversharing has been touched on a few times, and then I'll if I can read the room and realize that I'm oversharing, or someone's like, you might not want to talk about that, I'll tone it down. but it has to be conveyed in a way that, like, you let me know that that's what it is. I've never been, like, if we're talking about it, I've never been called names or thought that I had a high body count or anything like that, because I think it has I think it has a lot to do with my actual personality. Apparently I come off as a bitch to a lot of people, and like they don't want to cross me. I don't know, but apparently that's a vibe I give off. So, but this is also why I'm more friends with men than women, because men are less likely to be, unless you're like turning them down, they're less likely to be like, well, that's weird. Most of them are like, want to know information. If you have information, they're like,
Yeah.
so women actually like this? And I'm like, yeah, fucking women like this. They're like, do tell more, please.
Yeah. And that's kind of my experience too growing up. It's like I had more guy friends because most of the time, and it's crazy, but this is a society we live in. Most of the time, girls are going to judge other girls about who they're sleeping with or what they're into or who they like.
I was
Whereas a
more,
man's just going to be like, okay.
yeah, I was more judged in high school by stuff that I was interested in by my female quote unquote friends than I was
hmm
by my male friends.
And I think a lot of it just comes back to society as a whole and like what we see as or what is presented to us as like this is good, this is bad, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. So then people are like, okay, well, if everyone's believing this, then I have to believe this. So if my friend's talking about this, they're wrong.
So why do you think confidence is too much, though?
I don't think a lot of people know how to handle somebody who's confident.
At all.
I don't think people understand, like, she is a very confident woman. When I met her in fucking college, she was confident, I was confident. We both meshed really fucking well. And
hmm
once you vibe on somebody, like, you know that they're a little weird, but they're confident about their little weirdness,
hmm
it's easier than, because, like, I'm not putting on a front. A lot of people are putting on, like, this fake facade in public situations versus somebody who's confident is confident in who they are as a person. Yeah, there
Yeah.
are days where I hate how I look. That still doesn't mean I'm not confident. It's just I know my personality will outweigh anything that I have going on in my life, right?
I mean, who does?
hmm
Like, I met you at DJ and I shit talked you for like an hour straight on a phone call.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, is that I don't think people who are confident, I don't think people understand how to handle somebody who is confident, because I don't think a lot of people have that, their own confidence
No.
to be okay with who they are.
I think confidence can come off very intimidating to someone who's not comfortable with their self.
Do you think you can come off as cocky
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can come off as that.
absolutely, but it's a different type of cockiness, I think, is a different type of insecure confidence.
or a fake confidence?
Yeah,
hmm
people will be intimidated. Usually it's women that are more intimidated by female confidence. Men get cocky when they're intimidated by female confidence.
hmm
At least in my personal experience.
Yeah. Or men will try to think that they have something to prove because you are so confident.
Yeah, that too. I've had that run in a couple times.
Do you think
Mm.
America is actually more closed off than other places, or do we just pretend to be?
Ooh.
I think it goes by like area again. Because, like we talked about earlier, there's areas in the United States that, they're more comfortable with it. And it's not like a taboo subject to talk about.
Yeah.
But then you go into certain other states and you talk about it, you're wrong.
I think, and I might be wrong about this, I think in America we look at the woman's body as like sex and like sexy, whereas in a lot of other countries that do accept that, like, think of like, I guess like, off the top of my head, like France and over in the UK, it's like the woman's body in artwork back then was held to like such a beautiful standard and it wasn't objectified as it is in America.
Yeah, like there's a trend going on around TikTok about the Venus body, where it's what women actually had back in the day. And it's a thicker, it's a norm. I don't want to say normal, because all women's bodies are normal. I don't care who you are. All men's bodies are normal too. But it's just somebody who's not rail stick thin that, like models on TV are portrayed. And like
Mm.
it's a whole thing on TikTok where men are like, that's a hot body. And women are like, I didn't know I had this. This is what it's called. And I'm like, you've apparently never seen 1800s artwork
Well,
Yeah.
and
where
the
women are half
thing
naked and that's
is,
how they're portrayed.
if you look at what is being deemed beautiful now versus the early 2000s, in the early 2000s, it was the skinny, thick, the real skinny, little bitty bodies. And now it's like everybody's going back to, would you call it, the Venus body style? Everybody's leaning more towards that.
I also think that there's a lot of health factors into that a lot of people can't willingly sustain the same type of like rail skin model body, because you remember during that whole entire time there was like a skyrocket in bulimia and anorexia.
Absolutely.
Because of how prevalent they were making like models and stuff. But that's also a different topic, is we can touch on that a different time, is how that's women are objectified that way, I will say.
Yeah.
Which I will say right now, because we were on the men versus women topic, men are also recently being more like sexually objectified too.
Yeah.
Like with TikTok and all the thirst traps, and men knowing that if they look good that they can get the attention that they want, even if they don't want it, they are being objectified by men and women.
From my side of the workforce, I have seen a rise recently, especially with the thirst trap, the guy thirst traps making a rise, is the depression amongst men. And you talk to them, it's like, oh, well, my girl left me, or my girl doesn't like this about me, or I'm fat, especially in young adults.
Which is wild to me, because you should be getting with somebody based on their personality, their, character traits, and all that stuff. Yeah, looks can be a bonus for people. Granted, I'm not saying go out of your comfort zone from your looks category, but you should not be solely focusing on somebody by their looks.
No.
Looks will change the older you get.
I mean, look at Jelly Roll and a bunny.
Yeah, it's a good one, because like, but that's what I'm getting at, is like your looks will change no matter what. Like if you're a man and you're with a woman, she gets pregnant, clearly her body's never going to be the exact same that it was when you first met her, right?
No.
Absolutely.
You're also going to get older. You're going to get wrinkles. You're going to do all that stuff. Your looks will always change, which is what pisses me off with today's society, is because you should be basing who you are falling for by their personality and their character traits, because those are usually dead set in somebody.
But at the end of the day, your primalistic wiring is going to say that's hot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's also difficult because we live in a society where like everything in the world is at our fingertips. So we're constantly we're making these people who are by society standards hot. We're making them so popular. We're seeing this, and it's people creating this unrealistic idea in their head that this is what you want. This is how hot. This is what you should be looking for in someone. And it's like, that's just the exterior of someone.
So do you think it's more of they don't have the same access to this type of social media? Because I do know that some countries you can't get on TikTok, you can't get on certain websites. Or is it the education, religion, social pressure? Is it the same thing in these other countries?
I think it's a cultivation of both, because yeah, you can't get on like TikTok, but I know some countries you can get on Instagram. But you also have this day and age where a lot of people know how to like hack the system and change their VPNs and stuff like that to be able to access this stuff.
And there's also other social media in other countries too.
Yeah, and Nikki, you put up a really good point about the stigma for like a fit man versus a heavier woman with like Alicia. She's the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok one where she's heavier and he's like, they're Canadian and he's the fit one, and she gets so much hate just for being in that fucking marriage, and they've known each other for like 20 years.
Yeah. And it's I think as a society we were never supposed to be this exposed to this much. Like, I was trying to explain it to my fiance the other day. It's like, back in the day, you didn't have social media. You weren't looking at all these people on the internet all over the world and who were making famous. You were looking at your neighbor and being like, oh, my neighbor drives a similar car. We live in the same neighborhood. By all means, I don't have to strive to be this influencer because I'm comfortable where I'm at.
So
But now you see it everywhere. It's like hard not to want that.
So what I get from your takeaway is that a lot of people this day and age, which is unfortunately it is some people that are younger than us, they will, when we grew up, I don't think wealth was flaunted as much as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people who flaunt what they have, making other people want it. But I don't think people remember that, like, social media, you put on a presence
Yeah,
and what you want somebody to see versus, like, real life what's going on.
exactly.
But I don't think people have learned to detach from that situation. I think people fully believe that this is how they live their lives every single day, and they don't understand that there are other things that can happen throughout this time too, like
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think though one of the biggest things for us in America, like we've talked about in the past, it's the religion,
Mm-hmm.
Told you, the hot take.
the Western.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Shit, I feel like this is a weird topic, but I feel like Mormons are more understanding than fucking Western Christianity is. And that's a weird thing to say, but like, they just mind their own fucking business. If you want to convert, you convert. If you don't, you don't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was friends with Mormons in high school. Like I had a really good friend. She was Mormon. Her whole family was Mormon. And I loved them to death, but they weren't societal oppression. Like they weren't pushing
No,
religion on anybody. They weren't doing anything like how they're not the ones standing on the side of the road yelling about the Bible. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
even if like the missionaries show up and you're like, yeah, bro, I'm good. They're like, okay, well, here, I'm gonna leave this with you. If you change your mind, give us a call.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not gonna come back and beat on your door like
Jehovah Witnesses.
them people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, well, I had missionaries knocking on my apartment door a couple months ago, and I had a conversation with her. When we were coming back, we were driving back from Colorado. We were at one of the gas stations in Alabama, and I had a conversation with the missionary. Like, we had a full-on conversation. I will have a conversation with anybody about religion. A hot take, I don't care. Everybody gets worked up over it, but I'll listen to everybody's point of view. I didn't take how many freaking like 6 world religions classes in college and in high school to not, like, have a conversation with somebody about religion. So, like, as long as you're
Yeah.
not like, beating it down my throat, then I don't have a problem with it.
But if you really think about it, we're not that far off from when religion was still in school, when religion was still in the government, when religion was still a part of everyone's life.
I think
but
it still
Whereas
is.
now,
see, I think see that's the problem. Like,
I think it still is to an extent.
to an extent, but
if you think about the other countries that do that are very open about this, saying that most of these countries are religious based,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
but they're still open about it. They still talk about it.
So I'm not disagreeing. That's the thing is that I think we're more Western, like Western Christianity based than
yeah.
you. I think that's more of the percentage of what the United States has versus like France or like Europe or like anywhere else. I think we're more because I don't see Rome as being the same thing. Like I still see them doing kind of Western religion based stuff in Rome
Mm-hmm.
or Vatican City. Like I still see them being kind of closed off by it. Do I know if they are? No, absolutely not. But I don't see them. I It's one of those things. I don't see them as like full open about certain topics. And like we talked about earlier, Canada produced Degrassi, which was a Canadian-based show that touched on topics that the United States wouldn't touch on, not willingly at least.
The United States still won't touch on. I
Yeah,
mean, South.
and it would be desensitized if they did do it in a TV show.
Which is crazy because with how much we sexualize women in the United States, you would think it would be more openly talked about.
Which is why I think that Law and Order SVU has ran so long. They
Yeah.
don't typically desensitize a lot of stuff.
Mm.
So,
On kinks being accepted versus shamed. I like talking about kinks.
so do you feel like books let you experience a kink, a topic, or something like that without
Having to do
being
it.
without being exposed to everybody?
Well, I think it's easier for people to be able to consume these stories privately because you're
Right.
having such taboo subjects. So, like, you're having like possessiveness or morally gray characters or obsession or like different kinds of kinks, knife play, gunplay, ropes, whatever it may be. The fictional space gives a safe space to explore those intense emotions. You know what I mean? But however you might feel about what's going on in the book, you're in a safe space. No one's there to judge you. No one's there to be like, why are you reading that? There's less of a judgmental.
unless it's your partner who's just genuinely making fun of you, because that will happen.
Oh yeah.
I want to put that out there. You will probably be judged by your partner, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of what you get into when you decide to read different kind of books.
But if you can't have that open conversation with your partner and you guys aren't comfortable enough to be like, hey, I can make fun of you for that book, it might not be the right person.
Right?
Right.
I was made fun of for The Femur, and everybody makes fun of me for The Femur since I mention it all the time, because that's one book that stuck out with me the most. But also
I wouldn't
context.
make fun of you. I just
Okay, but you don't even know the rest of it. So that's the one book. It was by two authors, right? And then she made a little novella that's called Body Count that is about them, but her version of it. And he locks her in a coffin and stabs a little hole in it and puts his dick in there as a glory hole so she sucks him off. So, like, this is the same people. It's the same people. He just used a femur one time.
okay.
Yeah. See? So, kinks being accepted versus shamed. Are we talking about in America versus the world, or?
Well, I can't say that I know much about, kinks being talked about somewhere else in the world. Do you know of anything?
Not really. I don't deep dive that hard.
I think, at least, I've noticed sometimes in the book world, book talk, whatever, I think a lot of people have a problem with kinks in dark romance because I think some people or a lot of people correlate you reading this, like I enjoy reading this dynamic or this kink or this situation. A lot of people think that equates to I want this in real life. And it's like, no.
Yeah, I agree with that because there are books, like I've said, like The Highest Bidder that I read, it's technically 4 books in one, and I'm still stuck on the second one because I don't think it was portrayed correctly.
Yeah.
But, like, I haven't even pushed through it. And me being in the BDSM community and that being, like, a BDSM based book, I don't think it was well researched, I would say. I'm not saying it's a bad book, it's a good book. It pissed me off, so I had to stop reading it for a little bit.
I think
So,
are still very much a taboo topic, though.
I do too.
I think a lot of people are still scared to talk about it because, like we've talked about, before, especially in reading, the judgment.
Yeah.
You're gonna like if you go up to somebody and it's like, as a guy, let's weird topic to have at work, but somebody, a guy brought up, a dude getting his ass ate, and it was like he's like, man, that makes you gay as hell because no matter how you do it, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, but to some people that's pleasurable,
It comes back to I'm never gonna yuck someone's yum.
right? And I totally agree with that. But
Yeah, what you're getting
if
at is
you
that could be somebody's kink, and
if you're in that group, exactly, that's what I was fixing to get to. If you're standing in that group and that's your thing, you like that to happen.
you're not going to be more vocal about it
Yeah.
because somebody else is.
Now all your peers are looking, your peers are going to look at you like you're a weirdo, whatever.
I think anything related for men is a taboo topic to straight males.
Yeah. And I think it has something to do with their sexuality and how
Yeah.
they feel in it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, like, I think I've known men who, like, I've been with men who I'll, like, walking, and I'm that person that will literally, they're, in front of me. You probably do this too, Nikki, and you just, like, poke their ass.
Yeah.
Like, you're aiming for it. And a lot of them are okay with it. Like, they're just like, can you stop poking me in the ass? And I think that's a sign of somebody being secure in their masculinity versus somebody who's like, will you not put your finger near my asshole? And I'm like, there is barriers, dude.
Yeah.
It's not going in.
And I think a lot of it comes back to how people are going to feel like they're going to be judged.
Versus, like, women who have,
Yeah.
we talk about, like, lesbian stuff or, like, girl on girl action. Which is hot for men there, but there's women who don't like to hear about it. They think it's a taboo topic.
And it's difficult all around because if you're in the right setting of people, you're not going to be judged. But if you're in the wrong setting, there's a high possibility of being judged. And the issue is no one wants to be perceived.
I also think, like, in the same context of, like, the kinks and being judged and stuff like that, I want to jump into a side tangent of sex shops.
I love it.
But, like, because sex shops are rather a taboo topic for a lot of people, but when you go into one, you genuinely just see different people of different shapes, sizes, colors, different kinks all around browsing, right?
I'm gonna tell you something. I've had more help in a shop, one of those shops, than I've had in a freaking auto parts store.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do it safely, which is wild, right? So, but like, I think the moment that they enter in a space that's all about kinks and sex and stuff like that, I think they're more comfortable talking about it and like talking about what they're into. One, because a lot of people want to learn it or get to know it better to make sure that they like it versus, like talking to somebody you've known for a little bit and you don't know how they're going to handle what you got to say.
Exactly.
But I
I feel
think
that people are more alike than what we want to agree to.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are more alike than what they want to admit, and it comes back to being judged because it's like,
it comes back to the confidence.
yeah, the confidence of like, I'm confident in who I am as a person, which makes me comfortable talking about these things. But if you're not confident or comfortable with who you are, you're gonna question yourself, like, is it okay for me to talk to someone about this? Or is me liking this gonna come off the wrong way? You know what I'm saying?
I think I knew Nikki for like a week when I started deep diving into BDSM in the middle of a freaking study session in the library.
And
Okay,
it's,
like, and I could tell, like, I could just tell by her confidence that she wasn't. She'd either tell me to shut the fuck up, it wasn't the time to talk about it, or she'd be like, "Okay, let's discuss more."
yeah.
But we were in a group setting with like 4 other people, and they were uncomfortable. Like we visibly saw them get uncomfortable about it, and I was like, "I guess I got to redirect this conversation."
I think it comes down to people's openness. I think it comes down to like people, everyone should be more open about things and like hearing people's opinions on things. And people are so set in their ways that when someone talks about BDSM or talks about what they're into, they're like, don't even want to hear someone out about it.
Yeah.
Or have that conversation.
But I also think that has a factor into like, so like I said, I've taken like 6 or 7 world religions classes over the years, which is why I'm okay with talking to people about world religions and not getting like worked up or having an actual argument or a debate about it. Like I'm willing to understand because I've done some research on it. I took classes, like I learned about different types of religions and I want to know more. Like I'm a Gemini, so clearly I'm the person that wants to know things. Like I like to learn about stuff. I mean, that also has to probably do with my autism, but I do. I like to learn stuff. Like I don't think I think the moment that we stop learning different things, either about people or like different topics. Sorry, my cat's playing Mufasa right now and sliding off the bed. I think the moment that we stop learning is the moment that we stop, maturing, I would say, because you can only like you can never stop learning topics, right? Like I'm never done. Like I'm in the BDSM community, but I haven't learned everything, right? Like I'm not gonna say like I'm some expert in the field, right? I just
Yeah.
know topics about certain things, but I can also find you resources, right? But more people are less likely to be open about learning than they are, you know what I mean? Like you know where I'm going with it? Like they're less likely to want to learn something new because they're so set on what they think they already know.
Yeah, which is kind of what I was trying to say. Like, you're so set in like what your beliefs or what you're into or what your like your own bubble of life.
So, have you ever felt judged for being open? Whether it's in BDSM, kinks, books?
100%.
Because you're in the EDM community,
Yeah. So, I
which
guess
there's
that's another thing. It's kind of similar. It's like
a
EDM.
stigma with that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. People, you're into EDM and you're dressing in these skimpy clothes, you're doing drugs, and people just assume it's this that's the type of person you are. And you can kind of tie that back to books. It's like if you're reading all these dark romances, you must be messed up. But it's like, no, I go to EDM festivals completely sober.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who are into EDM and don't do drugs at all.
Yeah.
You were saying about being judged in the EDM world
Mm.
and things like that. People look at you reading that book and they're like the sinner. So you want to you have a dog collar and chains put on you. Well,
Yeah.
no. I mean, maybe. I mean, we know certain people in our groups that
Maybe if it's done correctly, might
Yeah.
want to do it.
Some people like being walked like a dog.
but just because I'm reading something doesn't mean that's, what I'm into. Is it nice to listen to something like that? Yes, because it gives you a different perspective of things.
Exactly. It's like if you're not open to learning new things, you're closing yourself off from other possibilities.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to not read a book just because I don't know something about a specific kink or about a certain something in it. You're just closing yourself off from enjoying something or liking something that you don't know you like.
But I also think the same stance is like everybody dogging on hunting Adeline because of the gun scene specifically. I think we touched on this last week,
Mm,
the last episode. But like they're full on calling it non-consensual or nah blah blah blah, you know, like, but that is a term in kink. It's non-consensual consent, and they're like, it wasn't made apparent in the book. Realistically, your trigger warnings are the consent between you
yeah.
and the author. The author is telling you before you go into a book. This isn't a real life situation. It is not infantilizing or antalizing, whatever you want to put it, as going out and doing this without somebody's consent. And if
If
it
you're
is,
not,
that's the person that shouldn't be reading it in the first place, because those type of men, I'm going to say men specifically, because those would be the ones that would act on that type of aggression versus females, even though females, you know, can do the same thing. But those type of men usually aren't reading these type of books.
yeah.
So
The thing is, if you're not reading the trigger warnings, you might not need to be reading. If you're already uncomfortable with dark romance and you don't want to read it, then
if you just want to know what it is, but you choose not to read the trigger warnings, you should just not read
yeah.
it. If you already have
Whereas,
something
like,
that you don't like.
exactly. Whereas, like, someone like you or me, we can skip the trigger warnings and be like, okay, this is, like, I can.
I also speed read on stuff that I'm not okay with.
Yeah, so I will skim.
If I can tell that a scene's coming up that I know I will not want to read about, like any animal abuse is kind of like my limits in books, because I don't want to read a book where they go into detail about how an animal has been abused, right?
Yeah.
I'll skim through it. Like, I'll skim through that whole little section.
Mm.
If I'm in a bad headspace and I'm reading about like a sexual assault or something like that, I'll skim through it.
I think it's also knowing when to put the book down and walk away.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people know how to do that.
Yeah.
That's fair to say.
So
If someone read Haunting Adeline and they're like, okay, this gun scene didn't sit right with me, I'm uncomfortable, put the book down, walk away. You don't have to finish it.
right. So I'm going to ask you this, Nadine, because I think Sydney's fuck it all doses taken since she was like born has kind of made it easier for her to do this. But before we get into like the last little part of this, what helped you become more comfortable talking about it?
Do you want to know what mine was?
Yes, I want to know what yours is.
I was bullied as a kid. 100%. I was bullied as a kid. Like in elementary and middle school, I was bullied as a kid. Like, I was the weird kid that nobody wanted to like hang out with, and I put on a face for people. Like, I openly acted ways that would make me, you know, come off as a normal person, and I still got made fun of. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. If you guys don't like me when I play normal, then I'm not gonna fucking play normal anymore. Like, you're gonna get the unhinged version of me now, so that's on y'all. Like, I was filtered as a kid.
Yeah.
And then I got bullied one too many times, and I did kind of push a kid down a set of bleachers because he was an asshole. I also pegged somebody with a textbook in high school, so.
I think a little bit of everything played a part. Kind of like what Sydney said. I wasn't so much bullied as I was kind of like the third friend in the group. So I was always open to talk to other groups of people, other groups of friends. Partially that, partially we can go back to talk about Tumblr.
That desensitized the shit out of me.
Desensitize the shit out of me. And to see like there's communities of people that are so open and honest to talk about it, I think built some of my confidence to be able to talk about it.
Me, I think it was, yeah, I was bullied as a kid too, but I think that gave me the ability to not care what people think about me,
Mm-hmm.
but to openly talk about things. I'd have to say it's getting into my line of work and understanding that. I mean, that desensitized me a lot. I desensitized as a kid, absolutely. But getting into the world of first responders, you get desensitized to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And having the friends that you have in there, like a lot of people will tell you, we're the weirdest people in the world because we'll be standing on the scene of somebody blowing their brains out,
Mm-hmm.
we're cracking jokes with each other. It's not because we think the situation's funny. It's
You become so desensitized.
Well, we have a weird way of dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
And that's our way of dealing with it. And having the friends that we have, having Sydney and Nadine, you've come to know some of the people that I've worked with and who we're friends with. And just who I think that helped me to be able to have that conversation with people.
I think Sydney's such a, correct me if I'm wrong, such like a gateway drug in the sense of like, she's so open and honest to talk about things, and she makes you feel so comfortable to talk about things.
Absolutely.
That you feel more welcomed into a community where you can talk about taboo things.
The first time that DeeJay saw my Shapari stuff, he messaged me. He goes, "I don't want to be weird." And I was like, "Trust me, you're not going to be weird." I don't know at all.
He was like, and stuff, and it was like I said, I'm not trying to be a creeper because I've had some people who are female friends, and I've been like, "Oh, hey, that dress is beautiful on you," or something like that, and they're like, "Well, you're just thirsty," and I'm like, "No, I'm trying to be nice."
I think we also live in a society where like a man trying to be nice scares people off, which is.
Oh, yes, I did. I said, "Hey, I'm not trying to be weird or anything, but that's kind of hot."
And then he goes, "How did you get into that?" And I was like, "Honestly, I just kind of did it one day." Also, today marks 10 years officially that I got tied up by one of my friends and like deep dived into it. So there you go.
Aw.
Yeah.
I love that.
It popped up on my memory. And I was like, I was tied
That's so
up.
fun.
But yeah, that was the first time. And I think the first time that I remember one call from DeeJay. We were at work and it was a mental health related one. And I was making jokes and I think he didn't, I was like 2 weeks in and I think he was like, "Yep, we're going to be friends." I remember that being on the call. He was like, "Yep."
I think it also ties back to like, you have to have a little tad bit of trauma in your life and be able to laugh about it.
Absolutely. Because like he said, you do get desensitized with, like I'm not a first responder, but I did do a lot of first responder based stuff that I was already sensitized to. And a lot of people going into it, you have to do like my interview process for it was you get shown photos of like terrible stuff and you're like, could you look at this on a daily basis because it's a part of your job? And that's usually when people are like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then you have other people who are like, sure, why not?
Yeah. Kind of the same thing with nursing. It's like you become so desensitized to things because you're going to see a lot of stuff in nursing. But also, honestly, as a tattoo artist, because tattoo artists are almost like therapists. People tell me the wildest stories about their lives. That and your tattooing is so intimate.
I think tattooing and hairdressers, like tattooists and hairdressers,
Yeah.
are like weird therapists that are like, you can load what you need to. That and waxers.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I've been all three of those things.
Thank you so much for saying I'm a safe place. I enjoy that. I like to make people feel comfortable to be able to talk about what they want to talk about. I don't like people feeling uncomfortable if they're curious about a topic.
Yeah.
And I hope I didn't make DeeJay feel uncomfortable when because he's come to me before about Shamari stuff. And I always tell him, I'm like, don't ever feel uncomfortable if you have questions. Like,
yeah. And it kind of comes back to what I was saying before. It's like some people are so open and make you feel comfortable, and then some just don't. And it just depends on the setting and the situation and the person.
So fast forward 10 to 20 years. Do you still think we're going to be having the same kind of conversation of sex being taboo?
yes.
Unfortunately, yes, but God, I hope not.
I hope not too, but I honestly think it comes down to our generation making a change with children, like teenagers, I think it needs to be discussed more. It needs to be like an open topic when they become of a correct age. And I would say like 16 is a correct age. I feel like that is most states, 16 and 17 is your age of consent in general, So like I feel like that should be a topic that is discussed.
I think we need better health education in schools, but our schools are so underfunded as it is that asking for like true sex ed health education for students is a difficult subject.
So I'm gonna go against the grain on both of y'all real quick. I think that if it's still taboo, that it's not going to be nearly what it is now.
No.
Because if you look at history, let's talk about the gay movement. Back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you didn't talk about that. You didn't talk about being gay.
Yeah.
If you did, you were ostracized. Fast forward to now, It's okay. It's okay to be trans. It's okay to be like now. Do you still? And again, like I said, if it's there, it's going to be very small because yes, is there people out there who think that being gay is wrong? Who think that being trans is wrong? Absolutely. Do I agree with it? I'm not going to say yes or no, but I'm not like in the words of Nadine. I'm not going to yuck somebody's yum. If you love somebody of the same sex or you want to change what gender you are. I don't care. You do you, boo boo. At the end of the day, that's your life. And I feel that as we continue to grow as a society and social norms continue to change, and they are, I feel that this topic is going to become less and less.
But in the same stance of what you're saying, women's rights got pushed back not too long ago. The autonomy of our body is not the same as it was a couple years ago.
I think it comes back to partially like history will repeat itself.
So in the same stance, yes, it might not be as taboo in the future, but I still think it's going to be a taboo subject no matter what you talk about, because women's bodies now are considered, we're objects to most men, and especially in politics, we're objects. Traditional marriages were objects. I will agree that it might not be as taboo in the future, but it will also be a taboo subject. It will always be taboo. It's never going to be an open topic that a lot of people are comfortable talking about it, because everybody is raised on different values and traditions and cultures and religions. So you're going to have one kid grow up in a family that's completely open about the topic and willing to discuss everything from, all of it, which I have friends that way, and it's great, and I love that. But you're going to have that same friend have a friend's parent who will not talk about any of it.
Absolutely.
So it will still be a taboo subject. Whether you think it's going to be like an openly discussed one, a better rate, it will still always be a taboo subject.
So it's safe to say that even like the gay and things like that is a taboo subject still.
It is a taboo subject.
In some homes.
Still go into places or around people who are not okay with talking about it. Whether it's a religious base, they don't know any knowledge about it, or it's unheard of for their family to have anybody.
Yeah. I guess you could use trans right now as one of those subjects. There's a lot of households that will not, won't not, do not want to talk about it. And so it's taboo for that family.
But you'll have somebody who has that friend who either is trans or it's a topic that's willing to be discussed.
But I think as a society, and this kind of happens with everything, we can accept this new thing, and this new thing, but there's always going to be something that people are going to find that they don't like, and they're going to gang up on. So there's always going to be something that is taboo.
I think
it's going to be a group of people that, regardless of who thinks it's okay, they're not going to agree with it.
Yeah.
I think until we can openly talk about sexual assaults against men and women without it being weird or uncomfortable, that we will still live in a taboo society talking about sex. That's unfortunately the reality that we live in, is that a lot of people aren't willing to talk about one of the harshest violations of a person can revolve around sex. Like, they don't even, like, you've seen it on freaking anywhere on social media. They will change it from rape to grape.
Yeah, because we live in a society like YouTube censors everything. TikTok wants to censor everything.
Well, and I think a lot of people, besides it being censored, I think people who talk about it will get demonetized for it, which means that they don't want it, the word out there. Which, if you're trying to make profit off of that topic, there's something completely wrong with you, unless you're in like true crime or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which even true crime ones, they will do it. I've noticed they'll desensitize themselves. Like, they'll not desensitize. They'll change the word around to like not trigger people. So I was gonna say, so I can understand that logic of it, but that's where I think we are, is until we can openly discuss a violent sexual act against another person, sex will always be a taboo topic.
Maybe the problem isn't the topic, it's the lack of conversation, which made me think back when we were younger, we actually carried on conversations with people. We would actually go to people's houses, we would sit at the park, and we would talk with each other. Nowadays, we don't do that. We are so focused on texting. Do you think that that is another problem or another barrier you would, or so?
Yeah, people are more comfortable behind a screen than they are in person. 100%.
I think we've lost human engagement.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people who feel way too comfortable hiding behind a keyboard.
Like there was an Instagram meme I sent to one of my guy friends not too long ago, and he considers himself like a dirty-minded man, which I'm a dirty-minded female. DeeJay, you know, Nikki, you know, I will have inappropriate jokes with anybody, right? And I said it was a picture of a woman, like the thing said it was somebody hiding under a desk, and it was the guy, it says inappropriate man or dirty-minded man or something like that, and then it was the woman busting through the door, and it was like inappropriate woman, and I sent it to them, and he was like, yeah, I'm real confident behind a screen. I'm not confident in person. And I'm like, that checks. Because I'll go bar to bar with somebody on an inappropriate topic for days.
100%.
So I 100%. I think people are more comfortable behind a screen than they are.
So it's not the problem with the topic. It's people not conversating.
Yeah. It's people scared.
It goes back to confidence. There's a lot of people that aren't confident in topics because, one, they might not be educated on it, or
they're scared to be judged.
Yep, they'll be judged on the topic that they're discussing. But I also think it has a lot to do with people who, like, if they put out false information or, like, they just genuinely don't understand, they don't know how to ask for it without somebody going down their throat this day and age. Like, a lot of people will say something, and then you have people in the background, well, that's not right. You're wrong. Like, that's not what this is. Versus, like, they go on the attack really quickly versus being like, hey, so this information you put out, I found this, this, and this. Like, you might want to do a little bit more research on it, you know, like.
Can't have conversations. Everybody just wants to attack and tell people how they're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that y'all want to say?
Not that I can think of.
Keep it safe and consensual.
All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of Bound by Books, Love Stories Beyond the Pages.
If something we said had you thinking or feeling a little called out,
or maybe unlock something you weren't expecting,
we want to hear about it.
Send us your thoughts, your favorite reads,
or the books that changed you.
Hit us at boundbybooksbc@gmail.com.
Make sure you're following, subscribed, and sharing with someone who needs a new obsession.
Or someone who's been keeping a few secrets on their own bookshelf.
Until next time.
Stay curious.
Stay bold.